I want to tell you a little secret. As a younger man and as a child, I counted almost everything that I did as a failure. Pretty much everything counted that way. There were a few things that didn't. There were a few things that I was more successful at and did well at, but most of those things were not really important or all that worthwhile things. I want to talk today on the Daily Summation about the subject of failing to learn. By the way, this is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, and I'm Kurt. Today is Tuesday, the 9th of November of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. The subject today is going to be failing to learn. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of failure, and I wanted to talk about it from the perspective of learning things, which seems like a kind of an odd thing to do. But when you come to realize certain things, you realize it's not all that odd at all. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read through my notes really quick to give you some idea kind of where I'm coming from. I can't tell you how many times I've failed. I can tell you that I, like so many folks, used to hate doing so. Don't get me wrong, given the choice between failure and success, I'd much rather succeed than fail. Thing is, though, pretty much everybody who's been a serious success will readily acknowledge they've failed a bunch of times. These days I take my failures as steps on the road to that final win. The obvious trick? Don't stop. I'm not calling failure an end unto itself. Rather, I'm saying that people need to get used to the idea of failing in order to learn, or failing to learn. I'm not saying, or I'm not going to say it again. The fact is the world, got to look at my own notes, don't I? I'm going to say it again. The fact is the world's most amazing, quote, winners, end of quotes, will be the first to tell you they were losers first many times over. That's maybe not true for everybody, but it's true for a lot of folks. I really began to see just how true this was watching my moderately autistic, that is level 2 autistic son. When your world is what so many would term a series of failures, and you have to surmount so many things, you have to learn to embrace failure and realize it isn't the end. My son and I deal with things he cannot do or be that are pretty much expected of children his age on a daily basis, though it's gotten less as he's gotten older. One other funny thing, though, every day, and here's what I was saying earlier, he looks a little less like the failure I'm sure many would consider him, and a little more like just some normal kid. His continued progress may be largely unintentional in many ways, but he's rolled steadily ahead whatever the case. Though I'd already come to the conclusion I needed to embrace failure, if I hadn't, I sure would have learned that lesson as a result of getting to live through his with him. The wonderful thing about all of this is that this lesson is not just for people like my son. It's really true. If you're willing to learn the lesson, assuming you haven't already done so, and many of you may have, you too can use your failures as a tool to move towards the future you desire and maybe well beyond it. Are you a failure? Use your failure today to make a brighter tomorrow. That's the end of my notes. So we're going to get on talking here. My son likes the Lego movie, and there's a scene in it where I think it's Morgan Freeman who plays the old guy, right? And he says, that may sound like a cat poster, right? And that's what I would say about what I'm telling you right now. Look, it may sound like some motivational garbage. Let me just help you to understand. I literally have lived a life in which I count myself more a failure than a success. Every day I battle with things that I don't know how to do. And I've told people, when people pay me, they pay me to be confused because they don't want to do it. They want somebody else to be confused for them. That's just the reality there. And that's what you need to understand. That's what you need to know, is that I literally make a living off of other people being unwilling or unable to do the things that I do. I'm not alone in that. I can't bake bread. Not to say that I couldn't learn how to do it, but I don't want to. I can't fix a car. Again, could I learn how to fix cars? I imagine I could learn pretty well how to do that job if I needed to do it. But is that something that I want to spend my time on? No. So in those senses, you could argue that I'm a failure. But here's the thing. A lot of people who do things like fix cars and bake bread have to learn lessons the hard way by going through a whole bunch of failures before they get to the point where they're successful in what it is that they're doing. And this is life as a rule. And again, you go and talk to people who are successful, and almost to a person, and maybe some of them won't, but I would bet almost to a person, they would tell you, yeah, I failed here, and I failed here, and I failed there, and I failed here. If they really thought about it, they would realize they failed an awful lot. And this is what I'm trying to get across today. Failure can be one of two things. It can be you falling down on the ground, crying and bemoaning your fate, or it can be you getting up, maybe after a little bit of time on the ground. I'm not going to say that you can't do that. But getting up and saying, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to figure this out. Maybe not the same thing you started to do. Maybe you'll realize I don't want to do this, or I don't care about that. But what I'm telling you is, when people fail and roll up in a ball, or take drugs, or imbibe alcohol, whatever it happens to be, which I suppose is also a drug technically, instead of embracing what they've dealt with, their life doesn't become better as a result. I'm not saying it doesn't at all become better. I'm saying it doesn't become better as quickly or as well as it could if they were willing to just embrace the fact that we all fail. All of us. And we have to learn. I'm going to say it again. One of the early things that I heard somebody say, and this has stuck with me for many years, I don't even remember, may have been old Tony Robbins, I don't recall now who it was, but somebody said this. They basically said, maybe not in exactly these words, just how many times does your son fail when walking before you decide that they're not going to do it, not going to be able to do it? Now, obviously, there are kids who never are able to walk. Their legs don't work right or whatever, right? Okay, granted. But for most people, the answer is you keep going until your kid learns what they need to know. And I've told people many times about my son. I have a feeling there are certain things he will just never get around to in life. Well, come on, that's true for all of us anyway, right? But it doesn't mean I'm going to assume that we need to just stop now and be done with it. That's not how that's going to work. What we're going to do is we're going to continue to work. We're going to continue to try. And I'm here to tell you, I've watched my son learn to do some things, that were questionable he'd ever get to do. He built a little thing out of the magnetic blocks things that you find in, a lot of play areas. He built a little thing out of those. And the thing that he built really was pretty amazing. And it required him to have a level of manual dexterity and fine motor skills that you would have never believed as a young man, baby and a young man he was ever going to have. Even though he was relatively good in those terms, he still just wasn't good with fine motor skills and so forth, and didn't seem like he ever wanted to learn. So this is what I'm trying to get across to you right now. Look, you're going to fail. Your choice. Are you going to learn from your failure, or are you going to lie down and let it take you? For my part, I'm sorry, I'm getting too old to not realize failure is a part of the road to success. It is how that works. I know, as I say, this sounds like I'm just giving a big pep talk. It isn't a big pep talk. I'm no great shakes, but look, I've managed some awesome things in my life, and a lot of it is because I failed, got back up, and tried it again. That's what you need to understand. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 9th of November of 2021. Getting real close to the end of the year. Tomorrow will be then Wednesday, the 10th of November of 2021, that middle of the week day. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and YouTube. Yes, welcome as well. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. Remember that you can give me a boxing glove or a plus sign on Rumble as a positive feedback, or a minus sign as a negative feedback if you choose to do that for whatever reason. You can give me a thumbs up or a like on YouTube if you want to do that for positive, tell me positive things. You can give me a thumbs down or a dislike if you want to tell me that I didn't do so great a job. Subject for today has been failing to learn, and tomorrow we're going to talk about parenting and philosophy. And this came out of a realization: most of the time when people discuss philosophy, they don't talk about children. There's something kind of odd to that for me, and I think as a parent, there are some considerations there that maybe want to be discussed. So that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you. And hopefully I will see you again on Wednesdays. That will be tomorrow's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Tuesday, November 9th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.